The reading of the most set-apart scripture, Genesis through Revelation, the second book of the Torah, Shemoth, also known as Exodus. Chapter 14. And YAHUAH spoke to Moshe, saying, Speak to the children of Yisrael, that they turn and camp before Pi Hahiroth, between Migdal and the sea, opposite Baal Zephon. Camp before it by the sea. For Pharaoh shall say of the children of Yisrael, They are entangled in the land, the wilderness has closed them in. And I shall strengthen the heart of Pharaoh, and he shall pursue them. But I am to be esteemed through Pharaoh, and over all his army. And the Mitzrites shall know that I am YAHUAH. And they did so. And it was reported to the sovereign of Mitzrayim that the people had fled. And the heart of Pharaoh and his servants was turned against the people. And they said, Why have we done this, that we have let Yisrael go from serving us? So he made his chariot ready and took his people with him. And he took 600 choice chariots and all the chariots of Mitzrayim, with officers over all of them. And YAHUAH strengthened the heart of Pharaoh, sovereign of Mitzrayim, and he pursued the children of Yisrael. But the children of Yisrael went out defiantly. And the Mitzrites pursued them, and all the horses and chariots of Pharaoh, and his horsemen and his army, and overtook them camping by the sea beside Pi Hahiroth, before Baal Zephon. And when Pharaoh drew near, the children of Israel lifted their eyes and saw the Mitzrites coming up after them, and they were greatly afraid. So the children of Israel cried out to YAHUAH. And they said to Moshe, Did you take us away to die in the wilderness, because there are no burial sites in Mitzrayim? What is this you have done to us to bring us up out of Mitzrayim? Is this not the word that we spoke to you in Mitzrayim, saying, Leave us alone and let us serve the Mitzrites, for it would have been better for us to serve the Mitzrites than to die in the wilderness? And Moshe said to the people, Do not be afraid. Stand still and see the deliverance of YAHUAH, which he does for you today. For the Mitzrites whom you see today, you are never, never to see again. YAHUAH does fight for you, and you keep silent. And YAHUAH said to Moshe, Why do you cry to me? Speak to the children of Yisrael, and let them go forward. And you lift up your rod and stretch out your hand over the sea, and divide it, and let the children of Yisrael go on dry ground through the midst of the sea. And I am strengthening the hearts of the Mitzrites, and they shall follow them. And I am to be esteemed through Pharaoh, and over all his army, his chariots, and his horsemen. And the Mitzrites shall know that I am YAHUAH, when I am esteemed through Pharaoh, his chariots, and his horsemen. And the messenger of Elohim, who went before the camp of Yisrael, moved and went behind them, and the column of cloud went from before them and stood behind them, and came between the camp of the Mitzrites and the camp of Yisrael. And it was the cloud and the darkness, and it gave light by night, and the one did not come near the other all the night. And Moshe stretched out his hand over the sea, and YAHUAH caused the sea to go back by a strong east wind all that night, and made the sea into dry land, and the waters were divided. And the children of Israel went into the midst of the sea on dry ground, and the waters were a wall to them on their right and on their left. And the Mitzrites pursued and went after them into the midst of the sea, all the horses of Pharaoh, his chariots, and his horsemen. And it came to be in the morning watch that YAHUAH looked down upon the army of the Mitzrites through the column of fire and cloud. And he brought the army of the Mitzrites into confusion, and he took off their chariot wheels, so that they drove them with difficulty. And the Mitzrites said, "Let us flee from the face of Yisrael, for YAHUAH fights for them against the Mitzrites." Then YAHUAH said to Moshe, "Stretch out your hand over the sea, and let the waters come back upon the Mitzrites, on their chariots, and on their horsemen." And Moshe stretched out his hand over the sea, and the sea returned to its usual flow at the break of day, with the Mitzrites fleeing into it. Thus YAHUAH overthrew the Mitzrites in the midst of the sea. And the waters returned and covered the chariots and the horsemen and all the army of Pharaoh that came into the sea after them, and not even one was left of them. And the children of Israel walked on dry ground in the midst of the sea, and the waters were a wall to them on their right and on their left. Thus YAHUAH saved Yisrael that day out of the hand of the Mitzrites, and Yisrael saw the Mitzrites dead on the seashore. And Yisrael saw the great work which YAHUAH had done in Mitzrayim, and the people feared YAHUAH and believed YAHUAH and his servant Moshe. Chapter 15. Then Moshe and the children of Israel sang this song to YAHUAH, and spoke, saying, "I sing to YAHUAH, for he is highly exalted. The horse and its rider he has thrown into the sea. Yah is my strength and song, and he has become my deliverance. He is my El, and I praise him, Elohim of my father, and I exalt him. YAHUAH is a man of battle. YAHUAH is his name. He has cast Pharaoh's chariots and his army into the sea, and his chosen officers are drowned in the sea of reeds. The depths covered them. They went down to the bottom like a stone. Your right hand, O YAHUAH, has become great in power. Your right hand, O YAHUAH, has crushed the enemy. And in the greatness of your excellence, you pulled down those who rose up against you. You sent forth your wrath, it consumed them like stubble. And with the wind of your nostrils, the waters were heaped up. The floods stood like a wall. The depths became stiff in the heart of the sea. The enemy said, "I pursue," I overtake, I divide the spoil. My being is satisfied on them. I draw out my sword, my hand destroys them. You did blow with your wind, the sea covered them. They sank like lead in the mighty waters. Who is like you, O YAHUAH, among the mighty ones? Who is like you, great in set apartness, awesome in praises, working wonders? You stretched out your right hand, the earth swallowed them. In your loving commitment, you led the people whom you have redeemed. In your strength, you guided them to your set apart dwelling. Peoples heard, they trembled. Anguish gripped the inhabitants of Philistia. Then the chiefs of Edom were troubled. Mighty men of Moab, trembling, grips them. All the inhabitants of Canaan melted. Fear and dread fell on them by the greatness of your arm. They are as silent as a stone. Until your people pass over, O YAHUAH, until the people whom you have bought pass over. You bring them in and plant them in the mountain of your inheritance, in the place, O YAHUAH, which you have made for your own dwelling, the set apart place, O YAHUAH, which your hands have prepared. YAHUAH reigns forever and ever, and for the horses of Pharaoh went with his chariots and his horsemen into the sea, and YAHUAH brought back the waters of the sea upon them, and the children of Israel went on dry ground in the midst of the sea. And Miriam, the prophetess, the sister of Aaron, took the timbrel in her hand, and all the women went out after her with timbrels and with dances. And Miriam answered them, Sing to YAHUAH, for he is highly exalted. The horse and its rider he has thrown into the sea. And Moshe brought Yisrael from the Sea of Reeds, and they went out into the wilderness of Shur. And they went 3 days in the wilderness and found no water. And they came to Marah, and they were unable to drink the waters of Marah, for they were bitter. So the name of it was called Marah. And the people grumbled against Moshe, saying, What are we to drink? Then he cried out to YAHUAH, and YAHUAH showed him a tree. And when he threw it into the waters were made sweet. There he made a law and a right ruling for them, and there he tried them. And he said, If you diligently obey the voice of YAHUAH, your Elohim, and do what is right in his eyes, and shall listen to his commands, and shall guard all his laws, I shall bring on you none of the diseases I brought on the Mitzrites, for I am YAHUAH who heals you. And they came to Elim, where there were 12 fountains of water and 70 palm trees, and they camped there by the waters. Chapter 16. And they set out from Elim, and all the congregation of the children of Israel came to the wilderness of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai, on the 15th day of the second new moon, after their going out of the land of Mitzrayim. And all the congregation of the children of Israel grumbled against Moshe and Aaron in the wilderness. And the children of Israel said to them, if only we had died by the hand of YAHUAH in the land of Mitzrayim, when we sat by the pots of meat, and when we ate bread to satisfaction. For you have brought us out into this wilderness to put all of this assembly to death with hunger. And YAHUAH said to Moshe, see, I am raining bread from the heavens for you, and the people shall go out and gather a day's portion every day in order to try them, whether they walk in my Torah or not. And it shall be on the 6th day that they shall prepare what they bring in, and it shall be twice as much as they gather daily. And Moshe and Aaron said to all the children of Israel, at evening you shall know that YAHUAH has brought you out of the land of Mitzrayim. And in the morning you shall see the esteem of YAHUAH, for he hears your grumblings against YAHUAH. And what are we that you grumble against us? And Moshe said, in that YAHUAH gives you meat to eat in the evening, and in the morning bread to satisfaction. For YAHUAH hears your grumblings, which you make against him. And what are we? Your grumblings are not against us, but against YAHUAH. And Moshe said to Aaron, say to all the congregation of the children of Israel, come near before YAHUAH, for he has heard your grumblings. And it came to be, as Aaron spoke to all the congregation of the children of Israel, that they looked toward the wilderness, and see, the esteem of YAHUAH appeared in the cloud. And YAHUAH spoke to Moshe, saying, I have heard the grumblings of the children of Israel. Speak to them, saying, between the evenings you are to eat meat, and in the morning you are to be satisfied with bread. And you shall know that I am YAHUAH, your Elohim. And it came to be that quails came up at evening and covered the camp. And in the morning the dew lay all around the camp. And the layer of dew went up, and see, on the surface of the wilderness was a small round substance, as fine as frost on the ground. And the children of Israel saw, and they said to each other, what is it? For they did not know what it was. And Moshe said to them, it is the bread which YAHUAH has given you to eat. This is the word which YAHUAH has commanded. Let every man gather it according to each one's need, an omer for each being, according to the number of beings. Let every man take for those who are in his tent. And the children of Israel did so, and gathered, some more, some less. And they measured it by omers, and he who gathered much did not have too much, and he who gathered little did not have too little. Each one gathered according to his need. And Moshe said, let no one leave any of it until morning. And they did not listen to Moshe. So some of them left part of it until morning, and it bred worms and stank. And Moshe was wroth with them, and they gathered it every morning, each one according to his need. And when the sun became hot, it melted. And it came to be on the 6th day that they gathered twice as much bread, 2 omers for each one, And all the rulers of the congregation came and told Moshe. And he said to them, "This is what YAHUAH has said. Tomorrow is a rest, a Sabbath set apart to YAHUAH. That which you bake, bake, and that which you cook, cook, and lay up for yourselves all that is left over to keep it until morning." And they laid it up till morning, as Moshe commanded, and it did not stink, and no worm was in it. And Moshe said, "Eat it today, for today is a Sabbath to YAHUAH. Today you do not find it in the field. Gather it 6 days, but on the seventh day, which is the Sabbath, there is none." And it came to be that some of the people went out on the seventh day to gather, but they found none. And YAHUAH said to Moshe, "How long shall you refuse to guard my commands and my Torah? See, because YAHUAH has given you the Sabbath, therefore he is giving you bread for 2 days on the sixth day. Let each one stay in his place. Do not let anyone go out of his place on the seventh day." So the people rested on the seventh day. And the house of Yisrael called its name manna, and it was like white coriander seed, and the taste of it was like thin cakes made with honey. And Moshe said, "This is the word which YAHUAH has commanded. Fill an omer with it to keep for your generations, so that they see the bread with which I fed you in the wilderness, when I brought you out of the land of Mitzrayim." And Moshe said to Aaron, "Take a pot and put an omer of manna in it, and set it down before YAHUAH to keep for your generations. As YAHUAH commanded Moshe, so did Aaron. Set it down before the witness to keep." And the children of Israel ate manna 40 years until they came to an inhabited land. They ate manna until they came to the border of the land of Canaan. And an omer is 1/10 of an ephah. Chapter 17. And all the congregation of the children of Israel set out on their journey from the wilderness of Sin, according to the mouth of YAHUAH, and camped in Rephidim. And there was no water for the people to drink. Therefore the people strove with Moshe and said, "Give us water to drink." And Moshe said to them, "Why do you strive with me? Why do you try YAHUAH?" And the people thirsted there for water. And the people grumbled against Moshe and said, "Why did you bring us out of Mitzrayim to kill us and our children and our livestock with thirst?" Then Moshe cried out to YAHUAH, saying, "What am I to do with this people? Yet a little, and they shall stone me." And YAHUAH said to Moshe, "Pass over before the people, and take with you some of the elders of Yisrael, and take in your hand your rod with which you struck the river, and go. See, I am standing before you there on the rock in Horeb, and you shall strike the rock, and water shall come out of it, and the people shall drink." And Moshe did so before the eyes of the elders of Yisrael. And he called the name of the place Massa and Meribah, because of the strife of the children of Israel, and because they tried YAHUAH, saying, Is YAHUAH in our midst or not? And came out, and Amalek came and fought with Yisrael in Rephidim. And Moshe said to Yehoshua, Choose for us men and go out, fight with Amalek. Tomorrow I am stationing myself on the top of the hill with the rod of Elohim in my hand. And Yahushua did as Moshe said to him to fight with Amalek. And Moshe, Aaron, and Hur went up to the top of the hill. And it came to be, when Moshe held up his hand, that Yisrael prevailed. And when he let down his hand, Amalek prevailed. But Moshe's hands were heavy, so they took a stone and put it under him, and he sat on it. And Aaron and Hur supported his hands, one on one side and the other on the other side. And his hands were steady until the going down of the sun. And Yahushua defeated Amalek and his people with the edge of the sword. And Yahuwah said to Moshe, Write this for a remembrance in the book and recite it in the hearing of Yahushua. I shall completely blot out the remembrance of Amalek from under the heavens. And Moshe built a slaughter place and called its name Yahuwah Nisi. For he said, Because a hand is on the throne of Yahuwah is to fight against Amalek from generation to generation. Chapter 18. And Yithro, the priest of Midian, Moshe's father-in-law, heard of all that Elohim had done for Moshe and for Yisrael, his people, that Yahuwah had brought Yisrael out of Mitzrayim. And Yithro, Moshe's father-in-law, took Zipporah, the wife of Moshe, after he had sent her back, and her two sons, of whom the name of one was Gershom, for he said, I have been a sojourner in a foreign land. And the name of the other was Eliezer, for he said, The Elohim of my father was my help, and delivered me from the sword of Pharaoh. Yithro, Moshe's father-in-law, came with his sons and his wife to Moshe in the wilderness, where he was encamped at the mountain of Elohim. And he had said to Moshe, I, your father-in-law, Yithro, am coming to you with your wife and her two sons with her. And Moshe went out to meet his father-in-law and bowed down and kissed him. And they asked each other about their welfare, and they went into the tent. And Moshe told his father-in-law all that Yahuwah had done to Pharaoh and to the Mitzrites for Yisrael's sake, all the hardship that had come upon them on the way, and how Yahuwah had delivered them. And Yithro rejoiced for all the good which Yahuwah had done for Yisrael, whom he had delivered out of the hand of the Mitzrites. And Yithro said, Blessed be Yahuwah, who has delivered you out of the hand of the Mitzrites and out of the hand of Pharaoh, and who has delivered the people from under the hand of the Mitzrites. Now I know that Yahuwah is greater than all the mighty ones. Indeed, in the matter in which they acted proudly above them. Then Yithro, the father-in-law of Moshe, brought an ascending offering and other slaughterings unto Elohim. And Aaron came with all the elders of Israel to eat bread with the father-in-law of Moshe before Elohim. And it came to be on the next day that Moshe sat to rightly rule the people. And the people stood before Moshe from morning until evening. And when the father-in-law of Moshe saw all that he did for the people, he said, "What is this that you are doing for the people? Why do you sit by yourself, and all the people stand before you from morning until evening?" And Moshe said to his father-in-law, "Because the people come to me to seek Elohim. When they have a matter, they come to me, and I rightly rule between one and another, and make known the laws of Elohim and his Torah." And the father-in-law of Moshe said to him, "What you are doing is not good. Both you and these people with you shall certainly wear yourselves out, for the matter is too heavy for you. You are not able to do it by yourself. Now listen to my voice. Let me counsel you, and Elohim be with you. Stand before Elohim for the people, and you shall bring the matters to Elohim, and you shall enlighten them concerning the laws and the Torah, and show them the way in which they should walk, and the work which they do. But you yourself seek out from all the people able men who fear Elohim, men of truth, hating unfair gain, and place these over them to be rulers of thousands, rulers of hundreds, rulers of fifties, and rulers of tens. And they shall rightly rule the people at all times. And it shall be that they bring every great matter to you, but they themselves rightly rule every small matter. So make it lighter for yourself, for they shall bear with you. If you do this word, and Elohim shall command you, then you shall be able to stand, and all this people also go to their place in peace." And Moshe listened to the voice of his father-in-law, and did all that he said. And Moshe chose able men out of all Israel, and made them heads over the people, rulers of thousands, rulers of hundreds, rulers of fifties, and rulers of tens. And they rightly ruled the people at all times. The hard matters they brought to Moshe, but they rightly ruled every small matter themselves. And Moshe sent off his father-in-law, and he went away to his own land. Chapter 19. In the third new moon, after the children of Israel had come out of the land of Mitzrayim, on this day they came to the wilderness of Sinai, for they set out from Rephidim, and had come to the wilderness of Sinai, and camped in the wilderness. So Yisrael camped there before the mountain, and Moshe went up to Elohim, and YAHUAH called to him from the mountain, saying, "This is what you are to say to the house of Yaakov, and declare to the children of Israel, you have seen what I did to the Mitzrites, and how I bore you on eagle's wings, and brought you to myself. And now, if you diligently obey my voice, and shall guard my covenant, then you shall be my treasured possession above all the peoples, for all the earth is mine. And you shall be to me a rain of priests and a set-apart nation. Those are the words which you are to speak to the children of Israel. And Moshe came and called for the elders of the people, and set before them all these words which YAHUAH commanded him. And all the people answered together and said, all that YAHUAH has spoken, we shall do. So Moshe brought back the words of the people to YAHUAH. And YAHUAH said to Moshe, see, I am coming to you in the thick cloud, so that the people hear when I speak with you and believe you forever. And Moshe reported the words of the people to YAHUAH. And YAHUAH said to Moshe, go to the people and set them apart today and tomorrow, and they shall wash their garments and shall be prepared by the third day. For on the third day YAHUAH shall come down upon Mount Sinai before the eyes of all the people. And you shall make a border for the people all around, saying, take heed to yourselves that you do not go up to the mountain or touch the border of it. Whoever touches the mountain shall certainly be put to death. Not a hand is to touch it, but he shall certainly be stoned or shot with an arrow. Whether man or beast, he shall not live. When the Yobel sounds long, let them come near the mountain. And Moshe came down from the mountain to the people and set the people apart, and they washed their garments. And he said to the people, be prepared by the third day. Do not come near a wife. And it came to be on the third day in the morning that there were thunders and lightnings and a thick cloud on the mountain, and a voice of a shofar was very strong. And all the people who were in the camp trembled. And Moshe brought the people out of the camp to meet with Elohim, and they stood at the foot of the mountain. And Mount Sinai was in smoke, all of it, because YAHUAH descended upon it in fire. And its smoke went up like the smoke of a furnace, and all the mountain trembled exceedingly. And when a voice of the shofar sounded long and became very strong, Moshe spoke, and Elohim answered him by voice. And YAHUAH came down upon Mount Sinai on the top of the mountain, and YAHUAH called Moshe to the top of the mountain, and Moshe went up. And YAHUAH said to Moshe, go down and warn the people, lest they break through unto YAHUAH to see, and many of them fall. And let the priests who come near YAHUAH set themselves apart too, lest YAHUAH break out against them. And Moshe said to YAHUAH, the people are not able to come up to Mount Sinai, for you warned us, saying, make a border around the mountain and set it apart. And YAHUAH said to him, come, go down, and then come up, you and Aaron with you, but do not let the priest and the people break through to come up to YAHUAH, lest he break out against them. And Moshe went down to the people and spoke to them.